Well, I think one thing's for sure. We need to try to cut down a little bit on what we did this week. That part of the show I think has been getting longer and longer. Although last week wasn't too bad, but maybe keep that a little bit more succinct. But I think maybe doing a short introduction, introducing the guest, then
so I see what
doing
you're saying.
one
so
story. I think we should really just keep it to one story.
So after this is Talking Drupal, this is episode 250 Claro. So then after that, saying something like our guest today is blah blah blah, front end developer, blah blah blah, blah. And then go into welcome to Talking Drupal. Our thoughts are with today. We're gonna because
I think we need to I think we still need to keep that in the same place. I think it's just that, with us this week as usual, Nick, John, and Steve, welcome. Our guest is Christina. Intro, bio, welcome. Because then they feel like they've been introduced to the show. Otherwise, I think most guests feel like they don't really have permission to speak. I mean, Ryan obviously is very gregarious, so he just kind of like jumped into everything. But most of our guests wait until we
just try that this week.
Yeah.
It doesn't hurt anything.
And then one thing I wanted to point out is I'd like to change this line.
Yeah, it's time to
something a little bit more broad because of the multiple issues that we're now facing
during the riots and pandemic.
Yeah, you know what? Let's just cut the whole line this week. Let's just cut it out of the intro.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
I have a feeling there's going to be 3 things that we're going to be praying about next week.
Zoom doesn't say.
No, nobody's going to talk about the 2 guys that decided to leave Earth.
I mean, I like that topic, but I have already brought it up in the show that nobody heard.
Hi.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi, Christina.
Hi there.
How are you?
How are you?
Fine. Sorry, it took me a little bit to realize that the link was on the Google Docs.
Oh, no
I
problem.
was looking for it on the calendar.
I should be better about putting it in there. You're right.
I know that's okay. I mean, I figured it out later on, but
Great.
yeah, that's why I'm a little bit late.
No problem. How are you today?
Fine. Almost time for dinner here.
Yeah, right.
Is it 3 hours? Is it 5 there?
It's 8 p.m.
8 p.m. Oh, it's 6 hours.
Yeah, actually, it's Spanish time for dinner. I know in the rest of the world that's not the time for the dinner or having something during the night, but for us it's from this hour until like 9-10.
And so I got friends down in New York. They eat dinner at like 9 o'clock at night, and I'm just like, okay, I can get down with that when visiting, but normally it doesn't work out with kids and whatnot.
Yeah, no, with kids it's completely different. It's just like lunch. It's sooner also, but yeah, at least also here the lunch is around from 1 to 3 or something like that. So completely different times.
All right, Christina, how do you pronounce your last name?
Don't worry if you don't pronounce
Okay.
it. It's Chumillas.
Chumilius?
Chumillas.
Chumilius. I'm not going to
Yes,
get that
but
right.
don't worry. I mean, that's especially for English-speaking people. If it's already strange here, the name, so it's normal that in English
Chumilius?
it's completely Chumillas.
Chumilias?
With,
Chumilias?
Exactly
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Now the trick is to see if once we actually start recording, if he
Yeah,
gets it.
I mean, I have trouble getting my own name right half the time, so. Chumilius.
Don't worry. However it
Chumilius.
sounds.
Okay. Well,
It
I'd like
will
to
be
get it.
okay.
I'd like to get it as close as possible, if not exactly
We'd like
accurate.
to at least try.
Yes. Okay, let's see. So you've gone through the notes already. Guys, do we have any stories this week? We're going to just skip
I
it.
dropped something in the stories room, and I don't remember what it was. Let me go check.
Okay.
Dig it out. Did we talk about the 2020 developer local development survey results from Jeff Geerling?
I read them. I don't know if we talked about it here.
I can't remember if we talked about it. I know I read it myself.
I put it in 2 weeks ago, but I don't know if we ever talked about it. Yeah, we could probably skip stories today.
All right, let's skip stories.
Oh wait, there's a huge story. Tomorrow's a Drupal 9 release.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah, that's true.
small thing to
Small
Drupal.
small story.
Little story in
Yeah.
consequence. So we'll add that one in there.
I
Drupal 9.
I already have clients asking me about updating to it.
I just got off a phone call, and we're in the middle of a project, and the client's like, should we plan to do this in Drupal 9? And I'm like, no, we should keep doing what we're doing, and we'll do it as a phase 2.
So yeah, please wait a few at least. I think I'm probably gonna wait 6 weeks before I consider updating.
Why such a defined number of time? Why not just look to see if the site can be upgraded?
Usually issues start to crop up. Like they get well defined within a couple of weeks, and they take a couple of weeks to get fixed.
Yeah.
No.
All right. I mean, I would still do the upgrade status and see if everything was ready to go or not, but that's just me.
That's another question for us. Someone remember to ask about Drupal 9, how Drupal 9 is going to impact this project. If it's going to impact it at all, is it? Is Claro impacted by D9?
Well, basically,
Don't answer that now.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We'll save it. We'll save it for the show.
okay, no spoilers. Okay.
No spoilers.
Did somebody put that question in here? Or should we add
No.
it?
Yeah, if you could drop it in, John, somewhere where it makes sense. I got one question for you guys before we move on. How someone always crosses out the text, strike out text. I cannot figure out how to do that in Google Docs.
Oh, it's like some weird keyboard command.
Oh, is it? Who does it?
Yeah. I think Nick does it. Because I always have to go into the actual menu in Google
text.
Docs. And
What-
Strike
what is-
through.
if you go under format and go to text, strike through is there, and you can see on a Mac. On a Mac, it's Command
Alt Shift
X.
5. Alt Shift 5.
He's not on a Mac. He doesn't even have a Mac anymore.
I was saying that's why I said on a Mac, so that way it wouldn't be like, oh, it's the same.
Okay. I think we're ready to go. Everybody ready? We are recording in 3 places this week. We had a disaster last week, Christina, where we had Moshe. Moshe was our guest, and we lost the recording.
Wow.
Second time it's happened in 250 episodes.
Second time. First time it was user error. This time it was technical error. Or user error because the backup wasn't going. I guess you could call it a user error, right?
Just to reiterate, does the launch of Drupal 9 impact this project? That was the question, right?
Or how does?
There you go.
All right, let's roll. You know what, guys? I think we're going to call this. We're going to switch the number on this to 249 because this will be out before the re-recording with Moshe. So better put
The re-recording.
the re-recording.
Re.
Okay. All right, we're off and running. Chumilas? Is that right?
Yeah.
Close enough? Okay, all right. Just double checking. This is Talking Drupal, a weekly chat about web design and development from a group of guys with one thing in common. We love Drupal. This is episode 249, Claro. Welcome to Talking Drupal. Today we're talking with Christina Chumalas with the Claro project. Welcome, Christina. So, Christine,
Hi there.
hi. Christine is a front-end designer and front-end developer at Lullabot. She's the co-organizer of Drupal Admin UI and JavaScript Modernization Initiative, which we've discussed in this show in the past. She is core usability maintainer for Drupal. She's the track chair for DrupalCon Europe, and she's involved in Barcelona's local community organizing Drupal and other tech-related events. Welcome to Talking Drupal.
Well, hi, everybody.
And also joining us, as usual, we have John Pacozzi. What's new with you, John?
Trying to find the unmute button. Hi, everybody. So what's new with me? It's always interesting because every time I join our podcast recording, I think to myself, why doesn't Zoom have a feature where you can bookmark or save regularly used meeting IDs so that you can just click on it and fire off the meeting? And every week I think about it, and every week I just kind of like put the ID, find the ID and put it in, and then just kind of go about my day. But yeah, I figured I would see if anybody had any suggestions or knew of a way to do that other than like obviously opening up a Word document or something and saving your ID. But yeah, I was just it's something that happens, and I thought I would fire it out there. So if you have an answer, you can hit me up on social media.
I'd like to know too.
Right? It's like such
question.
a no-brainer because there are meetings that you always connect to. You know,
Yeah.
you can do reoccurring meetings in Zoom. Why don't you have like a bookmark feature where you can like save a bunch of meetings so that way you don't have to go looking it up every time?
The other way to handle this too is have the person who creates the meeting event in the calendar to actually stick the Zoom link in the calendar invite. That would be a great idea. Right, Christina?
In theory, that's a great idea. But
Yeah.
in practice, like I will go to a calendar invite and click a link, obviously, but like I have Zoom open all day long, so it'd be easier just to go into Zoom and be like, oh, here it is, and click it and go.
Yeah, that's a great feature. I mean, those guys have been rolling out features like crazy lately, mostly around security, but maybe they'll get to that one someday.
Maybe, and they could be like in the release notes. They could be like, "This feature's for John Pacozzi on the Talking Drupal podcast."
There we go.
He complained.
So Nick Laughlin is joining us as well. Nick, what is new with you?
Good afternoon. Not too much. This weekend, my wife and I actually. So my wife and I have been playing the game that we mentioned a couple weeks ago, Overcooked, with a couple of friends of ours on a pretty weekly schedule during the quarantine. So every Friday or Saturday we get together for a couple hours and play the game. And it's one of our friends' birthday, and his wife asked a bunch of different friends to just make a short little video just saying happy birthday. And Joanna and I decided to reenact the game as our video. So we had a little bit of fun. We recorded them joining the actual game, and then we reenacted some of the common scenarios of the game with real food.
Oh, that's funny.
So we had fun.
So what did you make?
Birthday cake.
No, I mean we didn't actually get through the whole thing. We just like did like common little scenarios. So like many times you know, one of the mechanics of the game is that you have a certain amount of time after you're cooking before it burns, and because you're connected over the internet, you sometimes lag, and you know, taking the food doesn't happen quick enough, so it burns. So we just kind of reenacted some of those scenarios. It was fun.
So are we sharing that with the listeners?
Maybe I'll
Okay.
think about it.
All right. See if you can get approval.
Yep. What's new with you, Steven?
Oh, so last night I decided to do a update on one of my Linux machines. I was like 800 updates behind on my Arch machine, and I just let it run. It was running for a long time. I checked back on it a couple of hours later, and I had my very first cannot boot because Linux kernel not found message. Have you ever had that, Nick?
I think I did maybe like 7 or 8 years ago, the first time I installed Linux on a laptop, but not since. and not on a computer that I actually used, like once I get it up and running.
So it wasn't the computer that you were going to be recording a podcast on the next day, right?
No.
So I decided to go to bed. I got up this morning with a fresh look at it just to see what was going on. And I fixed this sucker in about 10 to 15 minutes. Like the beauty of Linux is if you understand what's going on with it, there was the kernel, the actual kernel software, which is a file or two, was missing in the boot folder. Don't know why. Maybe it was writing to it when the update crashed. No idea. But I was able to boot in from a USB drive with like a live version of Linux, just mount to that folder, copy the file in there, and I was back up and running. And I was thinking of my days back on Mac because things happen on a computer. It crashes sometimes. And the only way to ever fix anything like that on a Mac was basically format the hard drive and restore from a backup. That was the only way I could ever resolve a problem like this. So, another one of the many reasons I love Linux. So on to our topic of the day, Claro. Christina, what is Claro?
Well, Claro, short answer will be it's the new core admin theme for Drupal. Long answer, it's the real or the first result that we've had for the initiative for redesigning and modernizing the Drupal admin interface. And basically, this is the first iteration for the design system. So it is like it's the first real thing that people can see from what we've been working for the last years. The new administration thing is a short answer, I would say.
Cool. So how would somebody get involved with Claro if they were, they wanted to, they listen to the podcast, they want to get involved with it? How do they get involved?
So there are different ways. You can get involved either contributing with development, just with code, or going to the issue queue, Drupal issue queue, and helping with patch and reviewing work done. You can also contribute with design, which is actually one of the main lack of volunteers that we have, basically because there's not that many volunteers on the community. And this is another way where you can actually help. And obviously you can just write documentation. Well, not just, you can also write documentation and help with all this. I would say probably just going into the issue queue and filtering it by the component Claro theme. That will be the easier way for someone that is really has experience on contributing. But if you really want to get in contact with people to know which are the priorities, or you actually want to help designing, the Slack, the official Drupal Slack has two channels related to this. One is admin UI, and the other is admin UI design. And it's clear one is for design and the other is all the other things.
And we have an exciting way to tell people about to get involved. We'll save that for the end of the show if someone's interested in contributing.
So you mentioned something that actually brought up an interesting question for me, because Drupal has a fairly defined way of contributing. You can create a patch, you can submit it, and you can iterate on that patch, and people can test it. And then once it gets approved, it can get merged in. But you're working on something that, at least parts of it live outside of code. How are you iterating on the design and collaborating with other people? It's one thing to collaborate on a design internally with a company, but when you're collaborating on a design with such a widespread group of people, how are you making sure that tasks are, that people are being updated, working with the latest ideas, and making sure their voices are heard?
So the first step, obviously, is just getting in contact with people. That's the first step. And actually getting in contact with designers is complicated, and also designers with experience on the Drupal admin interface. So once that is done, the key has been the tool that we've been using. We've been using Figma. It's like a sketch, but it's like a Google Docs sketch. Basically, you can design on a web browser if you want, or there's also an app for I think for both Windows and Mac. But the key thing is that it also works on Linux because it's on the browser. It's real time collaboration. You can have several people, multi-user. You can have several designers working at the same time on the same thing. You can leave comments in there. So the good thing is that we've been working from people, I would say, from most of the continents right now. And there was a time where there were designers from India, from Europe, and from America mainly. And we couldn't have a meeting with everybody because it was really complicated, especially with people from San Francisco and people from India. I mean, the time zones were really complicated. So basically, having this tool where we just left the comments in there, we worked together, and if we wanted to actually someone to do a change, sometimes it was just better to copy their stuff and make the design on the right, and hey, I think that works better. And that was actually one of the key for the success for this. And when we decided on a design, we just moved the specifications into the issue queue. And the good thing is that also Figma gives a view of the designs where you can actually pick. It's just like in Vision and other tools where you can actually pick the colors, pick the font size, pick the sizes. So we didn't have this huge amount of work for preparing all the specs for the developers.
So we talked about how the community can get involved, but how specifically did you get involved with Claro?
That's a long story. I would say I've been trying to contribute to the front-end side of Drupal for several years, and I got involved on the UX group several years ago, and there was a lack of designers. There's been always a lack of designers, and since I'm a front-end, but also I am a designer, so it was easy for me to do all the work that other people couldn't do and help on that side. And I think it was DrupalCon New Orleans that we started talking about the need to have a new front end, a new theme for Drupal. And it wasn't defined if it had to be a front end, a back end theme, an administration theme. And from that discussions, actually the out of the box initiative started, Umami. And even though I was involved in the initiative for a long time, then we decided that also an admin team was needed and a redesign of the admin interface was needed. So we started with the designs of the Claro theme. Well, of the new administration interface. And actually, the modernization of the JavaScript started on another time with other people, and at the end, we end up together.
Very cool. So one of the questions that I also had is, what's the main goal of the project? So you talked a little bit about the genesis of the project in Umami and New Orleans. It sounds like the project has changed a little bit over the last few years. what's the current goals of the project?
So basically, if we talk about Claro itself, is basically providing a modern version of 7, a modern version of the admin theme, the default core admin theme, and something that can be actually used on the country projects, and that's basically the default theme. The goal for the initiative itself is redesigning the whole admin UI. It means redesigning the whole admin interface, which is actually a huge goal. It's really ambitious, and well, I don't want to give a lot of spoilers, but yeah, that's maybe too ambitious to actually be an initiative. But basically, the goal of an initiative, redesign the whole Drupal, it's a little bit ambitious.
So that makes me a follow-up question. What's been kind of the weirdest kind of user experience quirk that you've looked at when looking to redesign it? Because you're probably looking at parts of Drupal that many people don't look at very often. So I'm curious if there's anything that you just kind of saw, you went, I wonder why it works that way, and you kind of just reworked the...
I don't know. There's a page that I would say, how did we get here? Definitely a lot of the pages, probably the modules page or the permissions page will be probably the two of them that both of them are like, how did we get to this point with this such a complicated page? But probably I would say we are not really focused on finding pages and redesigning them. The key goal here has been to creating a design system that actually replaces each component. And then since in most of Drupal core, we actually use reuse components like forms, like field sets or text areas or lists or, I don't know, the menu. So most of the components are the same in several places. So that's been the main goal for the design side of the initiative, is basically coming up with a design system that right now is used by Claro. One of the goals for the initiative, the whole initiative, the admin UI and JavaScript modernization initiative, was actually replacing the whole UI with a JavaScript framework. I'm not going to go into which one, or I think it's a whole different story, but one of the goals was actually using a framework to for the admin UI. Then the thing is that also the design system should give the design instructions for the whatever we end up using. That's another thing, that it's not completely clear where we're going to end up also.
So I think I hear you saying, sorry, John, you want to go?
I just think I have a follow-up to next follow-up.
Okay. I have a follow-up to your follow-up to next follow-up. So you go first.
So I'm just curious. Looking at the design system, that makes complete sense, but you're also looking at UI elements. Are you pulling in any modules from the contrib space that provide interesting UI elements into the new admin theme?
So basically, we've been trying to base our work so far on the basic elements, HTML elements, trying to not change that many things. So basically, Claro was the faster way to get a new admin theme. Basically, we literally cloned 7 and started from scratch there. We started to change the fonts, the colors, the sizes, and everything. So Claro is just clone. So this is the first step. after that, I think I kind of lost where I was coming from, which was exactly the question.
I think you were saying that you were basically doing a clone, and then you may go down the road of adding some of those contrib modules into the theme.
Oh yeah, you were asking about what contribs. Basically, we have several things on the future goals, like changing the layout, the whole layout of the Drupal admin interface, basically, because right now it's one column and everything is in there, and we maybe want to use a sidebar. When are we going to use a sidebar? If we are going to start having two columns, where we should actually give this option to have several columns or a sidebar. So these kind of things, some of them already have some contrib solutions that maybe sometimes that solutions are good enough and we don't really need to start from scratch. Some other things that we might use from contribs are, I don't know right now which contribs, but yeah, there are several things that actually will be reused. And for example, on the development side, on the front-end development side, we're using post CSS. So we are not using Sass, for example, but we are not using default CSS. So some of that things are actually used by you. I think some of them were used by Umami. Some of not the post CSS, but several things that Umami created opened some doors for Claro, and Claro started with post CSS, and now Olivero, which is the front-end theme, also is using it. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So you've mentioned design system a few times here.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds to me that you're building a design system and then using that design system to guide or be part of what Claro is coming out to be. Do you envision the design system to be something that is like a product of Drupal and can be used to build for anyone to use to build front ends for projects?
So actually, one of the plans or one of the ideas that we would like to do at some point is create a style guide that is online, that can be accessed from anywhere. Either we've discussed several frameworks like Fractal or Storybook or several things that will let us insert the code, have us somewhere to actually check the code, also design instructions like design tokens or descriptions or something like that. So we're kind of thinking about that. And also since Claro is just one instance using the design system, we hope that at some point it can be used in several places. I think Commerce, they were talking about, or I'm not sure what's the status, but I remember hearing some people saying that they were creating actually a separate UI for editors, and that they were thinking about using it. So I'm not really sure what to state for that. So yeah, ideally it should have several uses.
So what is the current state of the project, and how does tomorrow's Drupal 9 release impact the project?
That sounds like a simple question.
You know me, I like to throw up the softballs.
Actually, it's not going to impact us at all. It's because basically we are already working on the 9 branch, because so Claro is an experimental theme right now. It is in Drupal core, so all the work needed to go to Drupal 9 is already done. And right now, all the issues that we're working on are Drupal 9 issues actually. So tomorrow's launch, it's not going to impact us. And I hope 9.1 isn't going to impact us neither, because we hopefully are going to be stable by then, or at least that's the goal.
Do you have any sense of how many people, since it's an experimental module, how many people are using it in its experimental state?
No. We have no idea. I know a lot of people that are using it as on production sites. Probably, I don't know, half of the people that I've heard on Twitter talking about, because I think WebChick actually asked about that on Twitter a few days or weeks ago, and a lot of people talked about using Claro on their projects by default.
I would imagine you see issues coming in the issue queue based on people using it in production.
Yeah. Both that and also from conflict modules also that are saying, hey, we're having problem with paragraphs, or we're having problems with this other thing. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
What's the biggest improvement with Claro over previous admin themes? Or what are you most proud of that has changed in Claro?
Probably it could be the look and feel, because Claro is basically what it is. It's like a new layer for the admin interface. Basically, so all these things come from, so there were several steps, and on the design side at the beginning, what we did was a UX study, where one of the steps of this study was actually asking for feedback from the community and from content authors and several people, what they wanted on a new UI, on what they lack on the current UI. And by difference, the thing that more people mentioned was modernizing the UI, a better look and feel for the UI. So that I would say this is solving that problem on a short term, and that would say, well, that's probably the best thing.
I have sort of a follow-up question to that. Is there are really two primary users, I think, for the admin theme, right? One is a site builder and one is a content manager. Has that been a challenge in terms of design issues for the theme?
You hit another good question. Yeah. So another of the key feedback that we got from this previous study was that until now we've been focusing Drupal on the site builder, because we are site builders, so we solve our problems, not the content author. So who thinks about the content author? Actually, when we release a project and we finish the project, who is going to spend more hours on that project? The content author, the content editor, the content manager, so whoever manages the content. And one of the key feedbacks was that we needed to improve the experience for the content managers or our editors or whatever. Actually, one of the steps that we need to do, and it's not completely related to Claro, it's more like a Drupal general thing, is that we are going to create a new role by default, at least one, which is going to be the editor, the content editor role. And there's a discussion to have another one, which is the content manager. And it's on the ideas issue queue. Several things that we are going to do, or we are planning on doing, are on the ideas issue queue, and this is one of them. So a lot of the focus that we've had so far is this exactly, focusing the improvements on the content editor experience. For example, one of the things ideally will be having an independent menu, or a menu that is adjusted with all the more common links, or the links, or the workflows that the content editor might need. And some other key features, like, I don't know, customizing a little bit the UI, like font sizes or font colors or dark theme or dark mode or something like
based
that.
on the role. Based on the role, yeah.
It depends. It's actually some of the things that need discussion. There's an issue right now on the core issues, which is replacing the color module by a solution that uses variables, CSS variables. And we need to figure out if we are going to do that and what things are we going to be able to customize in there. For example, we can have Claro with all the buttons instead of being blue, all the buttons on orange, for example. But for example, there's a discussion about the dark mode theme should be something that the user should be able to choose, or a high contrast mode. For example, a high contrast theme, that's something that the user should choose. But if the buttons are blue or dark or orange or pink or whatever, it probably should be a site builder decision. So all these things, are on discussion right now. Yeah, it's never easy with Drupal.
Yeah, there's so many aspects of front-end design that I never even think about. I mean, I either get a design and just implement it, or it's another team that's working on it entirely. It's interesting to see the thought process that goes behind some of these decisions.
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I know how hard it is to put a design together for just an anonymous user for the public side of the website. This project is putting a user interface together for admins, site builders, all of these people, and doing it for a large product that impacts potentially millions of people. It's a big project.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. This is actually one of the key points that actually marked an important moment on the history of this initiative, is that so we were focusing on updating the experience for the editors. Then let's focus on the node edit form. How this node edit form should be? Should we go to something that is more Gutenberg-like, like drag and drop and something like that, something easy? Or should we go to structured content form where you can't actually do that? Because if you want to serve content into a decoupled project, you can't go crazy with layout builder. I mean, you have to set some rules in there. So who is the target for the form, the node edit form? The Gutenberg people or the structured content people? And I would love to say there is a good answer for that, but it's Drupal and the answer is both.
Yeah.
So we've talked about, Claro being kind of more than a theme, right? It's a design system for the Drupal admin. Do you envision Claro becoming a base theme or a base design system for the admin experience, or is it going to be more of a total admin interface for Drupal?
So Claro itself, I believe it's going to be this theme, like 7 walls, where everybody, at least by default, builds with Claro. And then if you want to improve your project experience, you might install another theme like a minimal, or I don't know, it depends. But the design system itself, which we don't have any name for that it's probably going to be something that is going to stick more time and for more users than just the admin theme. That's probably something that is going to be around for more things, not just Claro.
I mean, so this, like, at this point, it's becoming very clear to me that, like, this project is like massive, right? It's not just like, oh, we're building an admin theme. Here it is. It's great, right? It's like we're building a design system for Drupal and we're implementing that with an admin theme, and we're thinking about the UI infrastructure that people have to use to do like things with
Exactly.
So like it's like a three-pronged approach to this one thing, right?
Exactly. And probably that's one of the reasons that we're thinking about what should be the endpoint for the initiative, not the Claro theme itself, but for the initiative. When we'll be able to say that we have finished, like, I don't know, for example, CMI finished at some point and other initiatives have had this final point where we said completed. And when are we going to be able to say, okay, Drupal new admin interface completed? Never.
Right.
So we are right now in this conversation, in this point of the conversation, to see what's the future of the initiative. Should we call Claro as the final thing when Claro is stable, and let's just finish the initiative by then and open other initiatives from there, smaller ones, like, for example, redesigning the admin UI for views or the layout, or should it be like a new admin interface, a new initiative? So these kind of conversations are going on. Several of them are on the issue queue. Other ones are just ideas
Wait a
from
second.
people.
Are you suggesting that there's a problem with the admin interface for views? I mean, I think it's pretty good.
And I think you called that a small initiative.
Well, maybe I said it's small, like not the whole UI,
Oh, okay.
but yes, that's definitely something that needs a revision. Actually, I gotta say that there is an issue for Claro right now that is improving it a lot, but it's just changing the colors, and I'm doing quotes with my fingers like it's irony. It's not just like that, but it's actually improving the look and feel for Claro. So it's going to be nice. But
I'm curious if this needs a more fundamental change, because I think one of the greatest things to come out of the Drupal 8 rebuild is the biannual minor point releases, allowing new features to kind of come into the ecosystem without waiting for Drupal 9 or Drupal 10 or Drupal 11. And I wonder if the user interface kind of has to have like a separate, almost a separate thing side by side that has a similar type of thing where, like you said, maybe for 9.1, the focus is views, and maybe for 9.2, the focus is menus. Because UI changes at a different rate than the framework.
Exactly. Yeah, that's actually a discussion that's a Drupal problem that we've had for a long time, is that we can't actually set time for an initiative because we are relying on volunteers, and you can set. So the goal for Claro was actually being stable for Drupal 9, and we are not. We are still on experimental. So that's the thing. We can't actually say this initiative is going to go first than the other, and then the other has more people and finishes before the other one. So it's complicated to set a roadmap because you never know which volunteers you're going to have. So yeah, I guess the project managers are setting priorities or something like that. But more than that, it depends a lot on the people helping.
Yeah.
So as we're recording this today, a week from tomorrow is Design for Drupal out of Boston, and it's a virtual conference this year, and you will be doing the keynote for that day. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about what that keynote presentation is about.
So the goal is actually having people interested on the initiative and Claro, and having people involved, and not just on Claro on the admin UI, but also trying to explain them how many possibilities are there to improve the Drupal admin interface. So I'm going to talk a little bit of the past. Where are we coming from? Why have we been focused on the site builder, and how are we changing that into the content editor without forgetting ourselves, because we want to survive it. So yes. So past, present, and obviously future. What things are being discussed? What things could we see in the future? What things have been moving behind the scenes that might be people interested on helping on there? So I will try to give as many examples of things where people can actually get involved and try to get people into contribution.
So to be clear about the date when that is June 10th for anyone listening to this. And you can learn more at designfordrupal.org. It's a free attendance to the conference. You do need to register ahead of time. Just so you can get a link to attend the presentation, but go to designfordrupal.org.
Yeah. And after that keynote, or at the end of that keynote, they're actually kicking off a 24-hour global contribution day, which is awesome. In thinking of that and your presentation, what does Claro need help with? You're going to have 24 hours of people kind of sprinting to help Drupal. What exactly could Claro use coming out of that?
So basically, I would say developers and designers. Anybody interested on helping on Claro, or working on CSS, or anything related on developing Claro. We are preparing several issues that have several levels. We are preparing some videos and some mentoring for helping people starting with that, but also designers. And we're preparing with Sasha, one of the other designers of the project, a demo video where it's going to introduce people into the whole design system and also Figma. And we're going to give access to the design system to any designer that wants to help. And I will try to be there as many hours as I can. At some point, I might have to go because, I'm in Europe and I don't know, at 1 or 2 a.m. maybe I have to go, but I will try to be in there to help anybody get it started.
This sounds like a great opportunity for someone who's been wanting to contribute at some level in Drupal. And this sounds like it's a beginning of a project that could potentially be going on for a long, long time with many, many pieces. Yes. So it could be a good place to get in, like at the ground level of some big initiatives over the next 4 or 5 years. Exactly.
I think it's both on the development side, because we are trying to start with to have several levels for start on the contribution process of how patch works, how all these things works, and we will have several people that can learn from that. But also on the design side, I know that there are a lot of companies that have designers that they will really like to help, but it's almost impossible as a designer to, start and install Node.js on your computer, start Drupal, and do all these things. So come to the design side, come to the dark side of the development. We have both sides, so we really need help on both sides, and it will be great to have people that wants to give back, and maybe they don't want to spend time learning new skills on development. So there's the design side also.
Yeah, one of the nice things about Global Contribution Days is there's usually a lot of issues that are very that are low-hanging fruit, so that you can contribute something. But as you mentioned, it's also about helping you get set up. So if you do have the ability to take it on more difficult issues or more complicated issues, you can make sure that you level set, that you get the relevant information, and get your environment set up in a way that makes you most productive. So there's usually a lot of levels. So what range of experience level do you think you're looking for in the contribution day for Claro?
If it's on the development side, so the moment that you have your local already set up, probably someone with CSS skills might be enough. But it is important that people comes to the sprints with a local installation or something like that, because if you want to contribute to code, because otherwise you might spend half of the day just trying to set up everything. And then at the moment that you want to start doing something, then you have to start reading the issue, and there's no one, or there's fewer people to ask about. So
yeah, don't let that discourage you though, because usually at the contribution days, there's a group of people that, that's what they focus on. They focus on getting your environment set up so that you can contribute in the future, or the next sprint you already have your environment set up and you can jump right in. So
I will say the organizer, one of the organizers for Design for Drupal, Leslie, is usually spearheads that at DrupalCon. So she definitely is a pro with getting people up and running to contribute to Drupal. So I have no fear that they'll have pretty good support at the event to help with that.
yeah, and also we'll be around on the Slack channel for anybody asking questions, either technical or more about specific issues. Like we're going to try to update all the instructions on all the issues, so it's easier to get and understand the issue. But either way, we're going to be around. Not only me, but also other people on the America time zone. So there's always going to be someone in there to answer questions and help.
That's awesome. And speaking of questions, if you have questions or feedback, reach out to us on Twitter at Talking Drupal, or email us at show@talkingdrupal.com. You can get show updates by signing up for our newsletter at talkingdrupal.com/newsletter.
thank you, patrons, for supporting Talking Drupal. Your support is greatly appreciated. You can learn more about becoming a patron at talkingdrupal.com and choosing Become a Patron.
Christina, thank you so much for joining us today. Good luck next week. That's June 10th for Design for Drupal, designfordrupal.org. If people want to reach out to you to get some more information about helping out or anything else you're involved with, how would they do that?
Ideally, if they can join the Drupal Slack channel, admin UI, that will be somewhere where it's not only me in there. There are a lot of people. There are tens of people actually involved and with a lot of answers. So it would be great if anybody with any answer could join this admin UI Slack channel, or either Twitter or on my Drupal.org mail. I don't know.
Okay. John Pacozzi, where can people reach you?
Oh man, so many places. You can reach me on all the major social networks and on Drupal.org at John Pacozzi. And then you can find out more about oomphinc at oomphinc.com.
And you, Nick?
Find me pretty much everywhere at Nixvan, NICXVAN.
And I'm Stephen Cross. You can find me on Twitter at Stephen Cross with a PH.
If you've enjoyed listening, we've enjoyed talking.
Thanks, guys. Thanks,
Have a good
Christina.
Thank you.
I like how Steven's shirt, for those video listeners, they're gonna see that it says the muscle.
Yeah, this is the boat. This is the T-shirt from the boat that I sail in. Call me the muscle. How do you like that? Isn't that ironic?
Well, you can be the brains or you can be the muscle.
I
guess
think
we know which one
I
you
think
are.
that means the fattest guy on the boat, but I'm not sure. All right. Thanks, Christina, for joining us today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Claro is so
enjoy
much bigger
dinner.
than I realized.
What did you say, Nick?
I said Claro is so much bigger than I realized.
Yeah, big project. Huge project.
It's not just that should be the tagline. Claro, it's not just an admin theme.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a little bit scary somehow.
Yeah, I can imagine. All right. Well, good luck next week, and I'll be talking to you next week.
But, okay.
All right. We'll see
See
you.
you.
Awesome.
All right.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
one.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Nick, don't forget to hit stop.
So OBS was flickering a little bit during that.
Was it?
About
Yeah.
halfway through.
Yeah.
I don't know if it actually recorded that or not. So I'll
Okay.
check it out.
I've got it recorded
Okay.
in 2 places. Thank you. Bye,
Have a good one.
Christina.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, I think that it'll be interesting to see. I'm going to be able to compare the Zoom to the OBS recording I did locally here, and then compare it to yours. It'll be interesting to see what they come out like.
868 megabytes.
I'm going to stop my